Hello, listeners! Welcome to another episode of All Consuming Podcast. So, in light of the upcoming and ongoing, and if you listen to this in the future, the Aggressive Worship Tour, we decided to change up our plan for this episode, and now we're going to do Conviction's album, I Won't Survive. Before we get into it, I wanted to give a shout out to our patrons. Thank you. We wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for you. Special shout out to Aaron, I Did It for the Mug, Trey, Heavy Metal Prophet, Adam, and Daniel. And Daniel, I'll be sending out those stickers as soon as I can. We appreciate you guys. Side note, I've been putting timestamps in our episodes, so if you lose your place or you want to skip around, check out our bio or the show notes or whatever that section of a podcast episode is called. So the last thing is, be sure to check out the Aggressive Worship Tour, which is featuring Convictions, Confessions of a Traitor, and depending on what branch of the tour you're on, either Cultist or Bloodlines. All right, and now it's time for our episode. Enjoy. So, Tyler, what is new with you since the last time we hung out and did an episode?
So, last time we recorded was like pre-Father's Day, I think.
Really? Was it that long ago?
Maybe. I mean,
it's been
I don't
a while. Know. Like, it took us a while to get our stuff out.
It's been a minute. Man, a lot's happened. I've been like all over. I feel like I just haven't stopped traveling, and I'm going to Chicago this weekend. So like, it's just been a crazy summer. Went and saw Taylor Swift last weekend.
Bucket list item,
dude.
Check.
This is wild, and I was like talking to my wife about this. So,
because no one else would.
it's a big deal, right? Like, she's packing out stadiums. The Seattle event night or whatever, the Seattle concert, the crowd was so loud it triggered seismic activity.
I saw it was like a 2.3 or whatever. Yeah,
and it's impressive. Seahawks did it, but like with the beast mode in 2011, but like they didn't have their own sound system. So I think Taylor Swift had the edge just because more people, her own sound system blaring.
She cheated. We get it.
Yeah. Uh-huh. But anyways, it was like a pretty cool deal. But she played. This is what's so wild. She played for 3.5 hours straight, 44 songs.
It's a lot.
Like, and I was talking to my wife, like, she knew every one of the 44 songs. I don't know if I know 44 songs from one band. Like, I'd be able to know them.
Really? I think For Today's got 44 songs. You don't
no
think
way,
you know?
Dude. 44? That I'd be like, I know the lyrics to all these. I don't think so.
For one band, you're thinking?
For one band. 44 songs.
Not even Demon Hunter? That's only 4 albums.
Well, that was literally the example my wife used. She's like, you know 44 Demon? No, I don't. I know like 15 Demon Hunter songs. Like,
I know 44.
Why do you think I'm such a huge Demon Hunter fan? Yeah. So I thought that was pretty crazy, and it was a cool deal. But my wife loved it, and I was just the guy that was like, I stood in line for an hour just to get merch. 1 hour.
How much was a Taylor Swift shirt?
$45 for a t-shirt.
Okay, I was expecting like 60, but that's still a lot.
65 for a crew neck sweatshirt. So I stood in line for an hour, right? Just waiting, barely moving. Like I was going on a ride at Disneyland or something, but I was going to spend my money,
You were waiting in line. Wasting your time.
Yeah. No, but it was a pretty cool experience, like. But the difference is, like, we were, had good seats, and even some of the songs I was singing to and kind of getting into, it's just so different with, like, huge concerts compared to, like, going to shows, obviously.
Yeah, because you're not, like, a part of it.
Right, and you feel like when you go to, like, a hardcore or, heavy show, like, you're a part of it. Like, you are as much a part of it sometimes as the band.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't know. It was different, but I guess a good experience. Yeah.
That's crazy. And you had a pretty cool shirt, too.
I did. I got to rock my deathcore Taylor Swift t-shirt. I got a lot of comments. Yeah. A few people that said, I have that exact t-shirt. I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Where is
now
it?
This one, so we're walking to the event. It is nuts downtown Seattle. The Mariners are playing the Blue Jays, so all the Western Canadians came to watch Canada's baseball team, right? So it's a sold-out game. Taylor Swift's happening next door at Lumen Field. And the Mariners game got out right when the Swifties were going into the concert. So it
right
was like
when you were going into the yeah.
Yeah. So it was a meeting of like these two different worlds, you know?
Yeah. And you're part of both.
I am. And
you're
so
like, I don't know where to go.
I'm walking and it is just jammed, dude. Like we're barely moving and I'm next to this Blue Jays fan. And I'm joking, right? Like, I think I'm hilarious. And I look at him and I'm saying, what's going on? Is there a concert tonight or something? Right? Like, you know, whatever. And he looks at me. He's like, yeah, but not those guys. And he pointed at my shirt, like thinking like, oh, but definitely not. It's not like going to be a deathcore band.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, well, actually, this is a Taylor Swift t-shirt, folklore album. And so he didn't really care and he just kept moving. But yeah, so
I would have laughed.
Got him.
I wished I was there.
That Canadian
I don't wish
guy.
I was there.
But yeah, so it was fun. I've been to 5 Taylor Swift concerts, and that was by far the best one. Also the longest, but yeah. I think I've seen August Burns Red the most, and then Taylor Swift is my next most seen artist. So that's where I'm sitting, man. Like, I think I need to see more bands.
I think so too.
Yeah. So what's going on with you?
Not nearly as exciting as a Taylor Swift concert. Life achievement of my son. He failed to break his board last month for Taekwondo, trying to get orange belt. And like, you know, we recorded the whole thing and it's really rough. Like watching him try like 20 times to break a board and seeing him feel defeated and stuff, and watching his master like yell at him when he starts to cry. There's no crying in my dojang. And like, you know, it's like, yeah, he's 5. But so it's been a long month building up to a retest. And so he was able to retest and he broke his board the first time. But, you know, they have like everyone go out and do their board test. So there's a ton of kids and like the parents get to go and hold the board. And he kept running at me and he would jump and just stop. And I'm like, dude, you got to at least kick. Yeah. And he just like looks at Master J and he like runs back just to see if he's watching. And then runs and runs. And eventually, you know, he's like the one of 3 kids left. And his master comes up to him and like, you know, excuses me. He's like, I'll hold the board. And he like gives him a motivational speech. And I pull out my phone and press record. And he ran at me like 4 times and he never kicked.
Yeah.
Never kicked. And, you know, I spent the whole day like making him practice and like, you got to get this right. And Jen spent the whole day just being like, you just got to keep telling yourself you can do it and you'll be able to do anything. And I'm just like, that's not helpful. He has to lift his foot and kick the board. Right. Your motivations are not going to make his foot rise and break a board.
Technique is as important as belief.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, he, you know, Master J takes over and Henry runs and kicks the board. Yay, everybody cheers, and, you know, they do some screaming and yelling, whatever, and Henry's super excited, and so I told him, like, board broken or not, we're going to go to Dairy Queen afterwards and get ice cream. Jen and the other siblings were at swim lessons, because they're at the same time, so we got to do ice cream without them, and I was asking him while we were eating ice cream, like, why didn't you ever break the board? Why didn't you even try to kick it when I was holding it? And he's like, I didn't want to break the board for you. I wanted to break it for Master J. And I was like, oh, okay.
Punch to the gut.
And then he tells me, you know what I thought about right before I kicked it? I thought about all those things Mom said. I could do it.
No, he didn't. No,
he did. And I was like, like, what? Anything I tell you, did anything soak in, you know? Oh. And so then later Jen comes home and, you know, he tries to pretend like he didn't get it, but he can't hide a smile. And but Jen's like, what did you think right before you broke the board? And he said the same thing he told me. And she's like, he's probably just saying that because I asked. And I was like, no, for real. He told me that. I didn't even ask him. And that's what he told me. So it just goes to show you, I guess, motivation and not Dad, but Master J is enough to...
You're the unsung hero. He couldn't do it without you, but you're the behind-the-scenes guy, dude.
That's what I'm thinking. So, Henry, when you hear this and you're older, it was me that got you that orange belt.
Dude, that's so
I made you do the hard work. Made you practice. Anyway, but with that, I think we should talk about what we're here to talk about.
Yes.
And before we do that, so we're going to talk about Convictions. Their EP/LP, whatever it is, 7-track I Won't Survive. So Tyler, when did you get into Convictions? Because, you know, you're always the straggler. Is there a song or a moment or something that clicked and you're like, I love these guys?
Okay, so I've definitely, like, before 2021 when this dropped, I knew Convictions. I knew a few songs from their previous release in 2018, but I wasn't, like, the biggest fan. I know a lot of people were like, love Convictions, but I just never saw them, never really listened. And then they dropped I Won't Survive. And right away, like, The Price of Grace became, like, one of my favorite songs. I played a ton. And Teeth. Like, I played that so much. So really for me, I think Convictions, I started really, like, jumping on the bandwagon 2021 when this dropped. And the singles, you know, that were kind of dropping as they dropped before. I think Hurricane was first, and I enjoyed that. But it was definitely for this release that I became a listener. Yeah. What about you?
So I've known that they've existed for a long time, and I'd always listen to an album in full. I don't know when, but probably that EP with the girl ghost on it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm cheating and looking at the discography right now. Hollowed Spirit. That's like the first time I found them.
Yeah.
And I don't remember why or what or whatever, but I think the first song that really got me was Hurricane.
Yeah.
Because it was a single, right? Released in 2019,
Way before,
2 years. Yeah. And I remember it came out like around the time Dark Skies did or something. And I was just like that tone that I was digging at the time. Loved it. But then they released that cover of Billie Eilish.
Oh, dude, that one's so sick.
All Everything I Wanted.
Everything I Wanted, yeah.
Yeah, man, that was such a good cover. And like at that time, like Chevy Cavalier thing that was given to us by a friend that didn't need it anymore, and when we were done with it, we gave it to a friend that didn't need it anymore, and just kind of kept passing down the line. But this thing, it was pretty much bulletproof. It was just not that fancy, but
Yeah.
no stereo, so I had to listen to the radio every day. And that Billie Eilish song was just on the radio twice.
The actual song.
The actual song.
Okay.
Like twice a day for my 10-minute drive to work. Right? It's like, why? Every day, before work and after work. And at first I was like, you know, this is a good song. Like the production on it and the mix is amazing. Like there's such good quality
kind of
in it.
alternative too. It's not just straight pop like you're used to.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a darker, poppy song. So when this song came out, which was around that time, like I was like, I know this song so well already. I hate that I know it so well. But their cover of it was just like, I don't know, kind of like what goes on in my head when I'm thinking, if I were to make this metal, I'd scream right here, like, you know. And they did that, you know, and it's just, it was a great impact, and I was super excited when their album came out, and I loved every track.
It was like, I think, for both of us, it sounds like we kind of came to Convictions a little bit later, but I also think, and we're going to talk about this a lot, like, this album right here, it feels like they finally, like, found their sound. You know, to me at least. Like, you even compare Hurricane to the first 4 songs on this record, it's a lot different, I think.
Yeah.
And what they continue to put out, Stigmata, the single that was the most recently released, like, they're definitely in this, like, sound. It's not the same metalcore that's always been done, right? There's a lot more wah and ways, and like you know, the guitar, yeah, like the guitars like breakdowns,
some new metal in there, some R&B core,
and Michael Felker like is a really, really good vocalist.
Yeah, he's
like
really good.
His lows can get to like deathcore lows, like.
Yep.
I mean, there's some songs on here I think that would dabble in what we wouldn't call it metalcore at that point anymore. You know, like Teeth with no cleans. It's really hard to say, oh, that's a metalcore song.
Yeah, that's a tough one because like even the ending of that is like beat down.
Yes.
You know, which we'll
just
get to.
Heavy.
We'll get to those.
And I think that's like the big piece too, is they went from like, yeah, they were heavy, but they were that typical in my eyes. The previous albums, just like kind of that metalcore that, you know, screaming during the chorus or the verses, and then like that high singing Devil Wears Prada as they dying type of, deal. But it changes a little bit in this album for sure.
Yeah, this one's definitely a different sound. So if you're thinking, oh, I love this, I should check out their older stuff, it's not going to be the same.
No. What an interesting deal, because we see a lot of bands that get like less heavy over time. And I feel like Convictions is just getting heavier as time goes on.
Seems like it, yeah.
Yeah, it totally seems like that. But
we'll see what their next album's like.
Yeah, I'm excited for what they're going to put out.
Yeah. So I'll go through the lineup and then kind of do like a general album thing, and then we'll get going.
Let's do it.
So the album lineup. This is not the current lineup. They've had a couple switcheroos, and I'm not going to cover that right now. But so the vocalist, as mentioned, Michael Felker.
Yep.
Well, really the unclean vocalist, right? And I'm going to butcher a bunch of names. Here we go. So their drummer, who's one of the original members, who's still in the band right now, Zach Schwachow, and Daniel Sukta, and he's the bassist / clean vocals, and I think he's only on this album.
Yeah.
I think he's on like maybe the cover song.
He is, yeah.
Yeah. But he left to join his own band.
And,
yeah. But I think he had a great touch on this sound, and it's cool to see them kind of evolve this and change it to what they're doing now with like Stigmata,
right.
Sticking with this tone kind of thing. And then the fourth member, the guitarist and other clean vocalist, is Joshua Canode. He's also the original member, but I don't think he's in the band right now. I think he just left. So that's the lineup. And I have a note from Michael about what the album is about. It's probably not. It's just from the band. I don't know if it's from him specifically, but I will read you his thing just to let you get into the right mindset of where we're going today.
Right.
So he said, I Won't Survive is a collection of true survival stories ranging from PTSD, grief, addiction, cancer, and suicide. These songs are written through interviews conducted throughout a 2-year period. We wanted to learn more about the turning point in these stories and about what these survivors felt and experienced at their lowest point to overcome and survive. Our goal is to highlight positive mental health and share the hope we believe God has for our lives. Boom.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to some heavy stuff today.
Super heavy, man.
Before we get started, I wanted to give like a disclaimer, a note. But, this episode will be difficult to talk about. And we're going to talk about, those things that were mentioned, suicidal thoughts, PTSD, addiction, other mental struggles. And Tyler and I are not experts on the matter.
No.
So an apology from us beforehand in case we misrepresent, misunderstand, or offend anyone that is struggling with these issues. Our intention is to bring light to the topics, not to mislead people, I guess. And if you are hurting and need help or need someone to call, there is a hotline. It used to be called the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. It is now called the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, and it's just dial 988 on your phone, and it calls them. And if you're struggling with any issues or even had thoughts of issues, whatever, these people are trained mental health professionals, and they're the people that know what they're talking about. Tyler and I are not mental health professionals.
Yeah, and like even when it comes to like the meaning of these songs and the original intention, like we're not experts. We listen, we read the lyrics, we try to grab from interviews.
Yep.
Even that, like we're not fully like 100%. Maybe there was a little bit different intention. This is what we got from it. So we just don't want people to think that we are the sole
end all be all.
Yeah.
Like right authors of the art. We are consumers.
Yes.
So with that, should we get started?
Dude, let's go.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
All right, first song, The War That Followed Me Home.
I break down, I run away, take the wake of hysteria. It's happening again. I see your face in the place where I resonate. While I sleep with my eyes wide open, I blame myself, I shame myself.
Death on the front lines, showing up on my front doorstep.
You'll never know the guilt I felt for surviving, or know the love and loss that's always on repeat. I'm just a living cash.
So this is a true story written from the perspective of a close fan and friend of the band. His name is Corey. And he opened up with them over the course of several years about surviving the war and his PTSD that he struggled with. And so this is kind of them sharing his struggles and perspective, which I think they do a great job at embodying the emotion and the struggle. I think it's such a well done song. Like, it's just, I mean, it's 4 minutes of this like brutal vocals. He gets super low at times, and Daniel just with the clean vocals on the chorus are just so catchy. Gets in your head, and some great woos and wheeze, according to Tyler.
Yeah.
And like the way the song starts, like it starts off very just chaos.
Yeah.
And when it all kind of cuts out in 30 seconds, and he just gets super low, it says, "I only sleep with my eyes wide open."
Jeez,
It's just so low, so heavy. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here lyrically. Also a heavy song. What are your initial thoughts, Tyler?
I mean, the way the song starts, literally Michael just screaming like, "Bleh," and then it just like gets going. Like
I break down.
I really enjoy it musically. Like the way this song is done, it just felt so much different than what Convictions was before, and it still has like those choruses, the high singing choruses. I do think Daniel does really well, but it's different. Like the super low, like almost gutturals of the verses, and then like the in between the bridges and stuff. Like just Michael screaming on this, and the whole song is phenomenal. It is heavy, and it's something I think that like people are like we always like say thanks to veterans.
Thanks for the
right?
troops. Yeah.
Thanks, we support you, all that stuff. Your dad's a veteran, right? Like, and we always say thanks when it's Veterans Day, or remember those that have fallen in Memorial Day. But like, we don't think about the after effects of people like this, Corey's story, of somebody that went and experienced not just like having to go into the military and do hard work and serve our country, but death and decisions that we could never in a million years make, and have to make that in a split second. Like, we don't think about those things, and I am so thankful that we have people that volunteer to do this, because it is a almost impossible task when you read these lyrics.
Yeah.
And it just makes me so like emotional thinking about it, because like I don't know when Corey went in, but a lot of my students that go into the military, or just people in general, they go in as teenagers, man. Like, you go in as a kid and you experience all these things trying to do the right thing and serve our country, and then you come home and all those things that happen don't leave. So it's definitely an eye-opener, and I think it's something that we should definitely be more conscious of in society, and in the church too.
Yeah, I know a lot of friends and coworkers, and and like, you know, from church and that have served in the military. Some were deployed. Some were deployed to very nice, relaxing places. Some were deployed to not nice, relaxing places.
Yes.
And it's tough, you know, because on the outside they look fine,
Right.
and I really don't know if any of them are struggling with anything like this. But so in this story, the lyrics kind of talk about like an event that happened that is like the core of his problem, of his flashbacks, of his PTSD. And the lyrics say, "We attacked, they shot back. I watched my friend take his last breath."
Yeah.
And you know, later he talks about taking a life. And it just, you know, there's a lot going on, you know, like you got survival's guilt. You have, you know, am I a murderer? You have, you know, a lot of struggles like that.
Yeah. So tough, you know, and like I could never imagine that, but like the idea of like having to make the decision to take another life, and if you don't, like your friend is gonna die, or maybe did die because of it, right? Like there's real consequences to your decisions, but then having to live with it, like as Christians, like we don't want to do that. That's not what we want. But there's times where it's like, man, this is a sad necessity and reality of life for some people that go into the military, and serve and protect our country.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's also a line where he kind of talks about his training. It's kind of like an internal remorse thing, and I really like, I don't know, the introspection of the lyrics where he says, "How can I feel when I've been trained for apathy? I put my life on the line. At what cost? My first kill became the death of me." But I mean, a lot of this, I mean, it's interesting because like these songs are so good, like musically, and there's so much emotion, but like to be able to sit down and really start like just to listen to this and like, I don't know, it's a downer.
Dude, this whole album feels very
But
downerish.
I think it's because it's not for us.
It's not. It's literally like, you know, you always hear these like bands, like I vividly remember like Emery when we saw them live in Spokane. They're like the greatest thing that's ever happened to us is when fans come to us and say your music helped me in some way,
Right.
like saved me from, you know, ultimately I think one example was helped me from killing myself. Like I decided not to kill myself because of your music. And so like telling those, like then going further with those people, listening to their story and then telling it to everyone else, like it's like, whoa, you know, like it's crazy.
Yeah. I didn't want to pull like a Miss Marvel and be like, it's not for you, you know, with her.
Yes.
Or rather Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel. Yeah.
But I think that's the big thing too, is like, I think people that struggle with one of these 5 songs that we're going to cover today, any of those kind of scenarios or situations, like this is like an anthem of what they go through.
Right.
And I mean, they're able to sing/scream along and let their heart out, right? And be like, yeah, this is how I think. This is how I feel.
Right. Well, and I think like, okay, so these are fans or close people of the band. Maybe other conviction songs like have helped them through working this out, right? I would think so. Mm-hmm. But now, and one specific line from this song, in the chorus, it starts and just says, "You'll never know the guilt I felt from surviving or knowing the love and loss that's always on repeat." And I don't have any idea. You probably don't have any idea, but there are some people out there that totally have an idea. Mm-hmm. And like you said, this song is for them, right? This song is for all of those people that are struggling when they come back home from war and they have this PTSD. I do like the title. Is the war that followed me home. I do like that title too, because I mean the whole thing, like even the chorus and using, you've gone MIA, missing in action, and I'll never find me. You know, like
like he's lost. Yeah,
right. But also having to play on words for like military and being in war, and so I feel like this was the whole album was written so well, and it's really contemplative, and it's so hard to like want to just like maybe mosh and just go nuts to this because it is so downer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I think that's actually a reason to mosh.
I think so too.
Just to be frustrated with this emotion, to be, that this has to happen. I mean, not everyone in the military suffers from PTSD or survivor's guilt, but it does happen, and it's a real thing, and it's often looked at, I don't know, as shame. Like, how can you feel that way?
Right. This is my favorite song on the album.
Really?
Yeah. It didn't start that way, but now it is.
What's your favorite part?
For sure, when Mike's screaming like the bridge and screaming the war that followed me home, and I don't know.
Not the breakdown where he's like,
I love the breakdown too.
Collapse.
Yeah, I do like
Demon
that
Hunter. Like,
also the lyrical content. Like, I don't really. This is something to me in the music I listen to that's not really talked about. I'm sure there's songs about PTSD out there, but not
probably
necessarily.
Five Finger Death Punch, and all
right. Yeah, there's going to be kind of bands that fit in that, but also from maybe the perspective of coming from a Christian band too. I think that's pretty cool. Probably leads us to our next song.
Yeah, let's hit the next song.
Wreckage.
I wanna feel like my visions convinced I should not exist without worth as a man. A failure I have been cast. When a dead is Operation Mask. Been waiting this for years, so here's my final act. The nails in your wrist to the best of mine. God, I try.
All right, so this song, I think before, like when I first listened to this album, I would go The War That Followed Me Home, skip Wreckage, Price of Grace, Teeth. The War That Followed Me Home, skip Wreckage. You know what I mean? That I had those three songs really were my jams when I first listened. Mm-hmm. But the more I listen to Wreckage, the more I like it.
Couple more plays and it'll be your favorite song?
No. But I do think this album is very front loaded. Like the front of this album, the first 5 songs are so good, man. Like,
you're like front loaded, 5 out of 7.
Like, and then instrumental, which is number 5. I don't know, like this album is really good. But Wreckage, so what I like about Wreckage, I think this is like the brutality of Michael's voice is really shining here, but also like there's some crazy other stuff he does, and we'll get to it. But I really like the intro, like the first verse of this song, and as it like builds up and it gets to the point where Michael says, "So here's my final act, the nails in your wrist cut the blades from mine, God I tried." Like the ambient feeling behind the music, I don't know how to describe it. Mm-hmm. Right? Convictions does that a lot in this album. When it gets like super heavy, they have this space.
Dude, it's like
it feels
a horror suspense sound or something,
yes,
like
absolutely.
Something bad is happening,
Yes. And I absolutely love that. So right away, I enjoy that. But my all-time favorite part of this whole song, and we haven't even talked about lyrical content, but my whole
everyone's like, I don't know, man. What
my
so
favorite,
far it's about wrists and blades, and
my favorite part is the bridge when Michael comes in with like this banshee screaming. Like,
Dude, yeah.
it feels like he's like breaking vocal cords.
It sounds like he's crying.
Yeah, very emotional. And basically just like calling out God, but just how heavy that gets.
If you love as you say you love, then give me something that's tangible. If you say you're always in control, then stop my head, rip all the gun from my throat.
Yeah, that's super good.
Like,
I get goosebumps on that. Like,
me too.
I mean,
man.
it's difficult because it's like, as a Christian, it's like, do I feel defensive or do I feel sympathetic? Right? Because he says, if you love as you say you love, then give me something that's tangible. If you
Right.
say you're always in control, then stop my hand and pull the gun from my throat. Salvage my soul, reclaim this life, or I swear I'll end it myself. Like, that's hard. That's hard to listen to, and
the music might be heavier than those lyrics. Like, that's the crazy part.
yeah,
Like,
they pair very well. I mean,
they do.
every time I hear it, it's just like like my heart's broken, and at the same time, it's like I don't know what to do.
Yeah. And this definitely, Wreckage is definitely about like this depression, right? This idea of somebody going through life depressed and like really questioning God a lot.
It sounds like they've attempted
throughout
suicide
this.
a few times.
Yes. But there are some like lyrical pieces where it's like, yikes, really just questioning like, where are you, God, when this happens? If you do this, why does this happen? Where, and it's like,
There's some great lamentations.
Yeah, for sure.
That's our word. Out to God for a lot of hurt, and they're questions that are valid. I mean, when people are struggling and suffering, and it's like, why me? Kind of a Job thing. But
Yeah.
Job never said those things. He just said, I still believe in God. I still trust him. But this is what happens if Job didn't
Yeah.
kind of thing. But this, some of those lines, I mean, the one you said, the nails in your wrist, cut the blades from mine. God, I tried. And he said, God, you get more lost with every suicidal thought. Where were you when they deemed me worthless? Where are you when I'm struck by serpents? He's struggling from sin, which is the serpents thing. And it's like, man, I'm still getting hit by these demons that are haunting me. I'm still struggling with these things. People say I'm worthless. I still have suicidal thoughts. They keep coming up. Why don't they stop?
Yeah. And the chorus, kind of like this idea of like putting it in the like idea of like a car crash, a wreckage piling up. It just keeps going further and further. Like, the only way out of this head-on collision is a miracle, because it's bound to happen, is what it feels like. Mm-hmm. And it does, like you said, just end on this like there's no solution. But like you said before, these are actually like survivor stories.
Yeah.
Which is going to be interesting when we talk about the next song. But these people are fighting through something. So like, I guess in my thoughts, I think even though this battle continues to rage on with this person, like, there is that idea of like, they're still looking for that miracle. There's still something that it could happen, right? But the pain they're going through is tremendous. And yeah, the way it ends too, just like, fix this or I'm going to end it. Like,
yeah,
man,
it's hard. It's difficult, and it gives you the goosebumps and like makes you really feel stuff. But I think that people that, I don't know, maybe the people that can sing along and know these words, like they've come out of their mouth themselves, like,
yeah,
I bet these are the kind of songs that just like they can really connect to.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to our next song, which is The Price of Grace. So The Price of Grace, very hard song.
Yeah. It's kind of been a theme so far.
It's like their most played song. And I think it's rightfully so. Like the breakdown and stuff is just nuts, and the content is so relatable, especially with COVID going on and stuff. But the song is a true story written about a good friend of theirs who went through a severe tragedy of his best friend and, their friend too, who committed suicide. This guy, his name's CJ, the friend that didn't die, right? His best bud.
Yeah.
He worked with Mike in writing the lyrics and collaborated on this song. So much so that he even has like a note or something, in the interlude that he reads himself, the friend. And it's a letter to his best friend Travis, who's the one that committed suicide. And the band knows both of these guys really well because they were like their earliest fans, and they would always go to their shows together and drive long distances to see them. The song isn't about the guy committing suicide. The song is about the people who survived.
Yeah, specifically the friend.
Yeah,
right?
It's really about CJ and like what he went through because his best friend killed himself.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a common topic in metalcore.
Yeah.
And I think it's because the music has a way of allowing you to express the emotion that you may be feeling in it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There's something about heavy music, especially with angry vocals, where expressing these emotions just comes with the territory, right? Like it's an outlet for that, it feels like. And we've talked about suicide I don't know how many times because it comes up in all of this, and there's people
we just talked about it on August Burns Red.
Right, yeah.
The bonus content.
Yeah. That's right, for our patrons. And this really like goes to show that like there are a lot of people that are struggling with depression, and there's people sadly that do take their lives. And this song is a little unique because it really focuses on the friend that survived, that lost a best friend. And like these lyrics are painful, man. Like,
yeah,
there's just parts where I kind of tear up just like when I hear it in the car. It's like, geez, I can't imagine, I can't imagine my best friends or my brothers or whatever, like doing that, making that decision. And so it's a really very heavy hitting song.
Yeah, and I think a lot, don't I? There's just a lot of pain and a lot of struggling still, even after all these years of his friend doing that. And the chorus I didn't really understand it until we did this episode, but he says, "I hope the price of grace, of getting him out of this life, whatever he was struggling with, was worth the gift of pain," because that's what he gave everyone, this gift of pain. And he said, "Because I feel like I'll never find peace with the way you left me." And it's true. Like the rest of his life, he may go every day thinking about this. And who knows the questions and the problems and the issues and how much his friend was there or not, or how much of a struggle this was, or if it was like a shock. Like, what do you mean he committed suicide? We really don't know. But there's all kinds of scenarios and all kinds of ranges that I think this song applies to. And I think it's relatable and all that. So with that, let's talk about the music and some of the lyrics. And now that we know what it's all about,
I mean, I love a lot of it. I think this is the perfect example of like what a good metalcore chorus is. I think Daniel sings these super highs, the price of grace, and I'm with you too. Like I kind of really understood it studying for this episode. But that chorus is really just like an awesome break in between, and it's really I think like kind of the definition of metalcore, and then it gets super heavy. But my favorite part of the song is that interlude piece, and you really like, I think to do yourself a favor, I first really heard this, it was on this is weird. So this song specifically, I first heard on a deathcore playlist on Spotify. And Convictions isn't really deathcore,
Right, uh-huh.
but there's some dabbling, you know. Sure, there's some dabbling. And I was in my car, and this was just blaring, and I didn't fully understand all of like what this was about until it gets
the
that interlude.
Yeah.
And then you hear it, and it's just you in the car, super loud, and it's like it brings up a emotion that can only be stirred like like with tragic loss, you know, just hearing the voice and hearing like no holds back. This is how I'm feeling. Like, it's crazy. And then it comes in, like when Michael comes in after that.
The outro or after the interlude?
After the interlude, when he comes in and says, "What happened to Brothers Forever?" Or like, you said we would grow old together. Like, the way that screamed is insane.
Hey, man. I know you may not ever get the chance to hear this, but just wanted to tell you that I love you. One last time. I've never felt so alone. I don't know why you did it. Didn't you just say something? Why didn't you just warn me? Can't even go back home, because you're not there anymore. You're my brother. I would have done anything for you. I miss you.
What happened to Brothers Forever? You said we'd grow old together. I'm reaching out to the heavens. Can you hear my voice? How can I live on knowing that this was your choice? I will carry your memory until the day that I die. Shall keep alive.
Dude, this song will wreck you, man.
Yeah, it's so intense. Yeah, and I mean, even like that outro, like right after that, when he's like so heavy and so slow. What's he screaming? Like, I will carry your memory. Just super low and so slow.
So low and slow.
And your car speakers are rumbling, and you're like, ah.
Just wiping away tears, like, dude, like,
yeah, it's so brutal. Like, where he says, like, how could you leave your family behind?
Yeah,
you embraced your demons and gave in to suicide. You deserve to survive.
Yeah.
Oof, that shirt. I'm buying that shirt when we see it.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know. It takes you over, and like the song's over, and you're like, oh, back to the real world. Oh yeah, I'm not in this song. I'm driving.
Yeah.
You know, like. Very distracting.
So, you know, I don't know if, like, you get this ever, but, like, when people are like, oh, Christian metal, what is it? Just like, Jesus died for me, Jesus, you know, like, hey, rock on. Like, that's what they think it is.
Or, like,
like
metal has no emotion in it.
Yeah. Like,
just a bunch of screaming and kicking and meh.
Like, this is, like, the exact opposite. The way that this is written and the whole piece from start to finish, like, is just so good.
Yep.
And I don't care if you like metal or not, if you are a Christian or not, you need to listen to this song, and you need to do yourself a favor and just be in some sort of solitude and listen to it and really just meditate on it, because it's so good. It deserves to be
to survive.
It deserves to be played like it is. And so I don't know. Like, maybe this is... I might have spoke too soon. Maybe this is still my favorite song. They must have known, right? Like, taking on this task of, like, we're going to tell these stories. This can be hard. But they took it on. They took on the task. And, like, it is... Like, I would be so intrigued to hear responses of people that are going through... maybe thoughts of suicide, or maybe they have somebody that they know killed themselves or whatever. Like, does this help? Does it help? I think it does. I think it probably does, to, like, have a voice out there for you, right? Like, the voice of the unheard. I think that's kind of like this theme. And it's so... I don't even, like... you go to church every week or whatever, and you go to work or whatever, and you do think about people, but do you think about people on this level? Like,
how are you?
I don't know.
Good. Oh, great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? And there's stuff going on with a lot of people. And so to really have this, like, these anthems for these people that are going through this, it's kudos to the band. Pretty awesome, man. Yeah.
So shall we move on to the next song?
Next song is Teeth.
Through our suffering, we are all connected. You're sending fire, one of self-destruction. Deadly, spear from flesh, and I present the bastard souls. We light our pain, go on detected. Through our suffering, we are all connected. Never rejected. This pit drag me down further.
When I think about when I first heard this song, I was like, oh my goodness, where has this been my whole life? Because, like, this to me is like peak Convictions. And I know there's no clean singing. Like,
but it's not your favorite song. How can it be?
It's not my favorite. No, it's not my favorite song because lyrical content, there's not a ton here. But like musically, I say this musically is like what I crave. I crave this like hardcore, slow.
You like those Scooby-Doo sounds?
Death. Yeah. Like, yes. And I love the breakdown, and then the breakdown. I love.
Yeah.
It's so heavy. It's just so heavy. Did they play this song when you saw them?
Yeah.
See, I need to hear this song live. What's your favorite part?
So far we've covered like 3 songs with like 3 different types of suffering, and this song is kind of saying, through our suffering, we are all connected.
Yeah.
And I don't really think this is like another type of addiction or whatever. I think this is just kind of like an anthem of like, it's hard everywhere. Like a lot of references to hell and the feeling of being pulled down further and further and getting darker and worse. And I really like the sound. I like when he says, when he's getting pulled down further and further, and he's like, "Can you hear the sound?" And it's like silence, and he says, "Weeping and gnashing of teeth." I mean, that's just an image of hell, right? We know that's one of the references in the Bible of what Jesus says hell is like.
Yeah,
there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth, and so he's kind of like, I'm getting pulled down so much that I can hear hell, is what he's saying. And then kind of the panic after that, the panic music where he's like, "Can you hear the sound? Can you hear the sound?" And I just really like, I don't know, the imagery and like kind of how it puts you in this really dark place. But man, it's heavy.
I think that is the point, right? Like every Christian, like I think we bring this to the Christian perspective, right? Like we're going to suffer in this life, right? Like there's some really great things on this earth, but there's also some really, really bad things, right? Mm-hmm. There will never be complete healing until we get to heaven.
Death.
Right? And so now maybe some suffering is more intense than others or whatever, but we all are suffering, and we all are going to experience death of friends and loved ones. We're going to experience sickness. We're going to experience hurt, right? And through that, knowing that we are connected, and one day that will not happen, right? I think that's like the biggest like piece of this, and probably the entire overall like message of this album is like, one day this won't happen anymore. God is real, and God is going to make sure that every tear is wiped away, right? That every wound is healed. And so, is this the most positive song on the album?
Well, maybe. There is like the outro of this, there's like a line where I think he's calling out to God and saying, "Destroy the agonizing isolation.
Yeah.
And then he says, restore the lost connection through our suffering. Like, I don't know if that's the lost connection between them and God or each other or whatever,
Right.
but there is kind of a positive spin on this, kind of like a command to like make this end. But, and you know, there's one thing I've noticed about a lot of these songs, and I'm just now noticing it, I think. There's a lot of bass guitar.
Dude.
And I feel like in a lot of metalcore, like, everyone, you know, gives bass guitarists a hard time for being the bass guitarist.
Being there.
Right?
Yeah.
And I feel that, right? I hate going to shows and seeing the bass up there and not hearing it at all. It drives me nuts as a sound guy. Like, and so when I hear it in music, I'm like, that's the bass guitar. Like, I can hear it. And like in this song, I feel like, I think it's the bass guitar. It could be a wacky effect on the electric guitar to make it so crunchy and heavy, but I'm
Dude,
pretty
it's
sure
the
it's the
bass.
bass.
I think so, too.
It rips on this song. It's so good.
Yeah, and I think you can hear it in other songs, but you're right. Like, and the way we hit this breakdown that we need to really focus on, the space, the heavy, just slowness of it really lets that bass crunchiness shine through. But when Mike screams, and it's like silent at this point, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Like, what happens after that for the rest of the song?
Chong, 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 chong.
Is so incredibly heavy that like I can't even put it into perspective. Like, it's so heavy. And then like when you think it's done, it like stops for like a millisecond, complete silence, and then blah, hits again, just even harder and slower.
There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Can you hear the sound? Can you hear the sound? Can you hear the sound? The agonizing isolation. The lost connection through our suffering.
Oh my goodness. What do you compare this, like, if this was the conviction of the
Cultist?
sound? Yes, that's a good comparison. I don't
We'll see. When we see them live, I don't know. Should we move on to the next one then?
The last one for our episode.
Yep. Hurricane.
I'm lost in this hurricane. I'll never find my way. I'll never find my way.
My lungs collapse. I can tell I can breathe.
16 years is not enough. Time will pass, but I feel your love. It's still inside me. Still inside me. Torrential rains have swept you up. You always told me I could trust. You're still beside me. Still beside me.
Every dream is falling short, and the pills they never work. It's all the same. It's all the same, and I'm still here without you.
So we know this song came out 2 years or so before the album did.
Yeah.
And I think it's the first song with Daniel in it, doing those clean vocals. And you know, the song is still kind of on that theme. I don't know if this was like an original with him interviewing people about their struggles and things, but it's definitely relatable. And I think this is more of a radio friendly song because I think it's less specific. It's a little more vague. It uses a metaphor of a hurricane
Sure.
to kind of show the struggle in life that this person has. But I believe that this song is about losing a battle with addiction. I think it's a drug addiction or like pills or something. Just because of there's like one line that kind of leans to that where he says every treatment's fallen short, and I almost thought cancer, and the pills never work. But I don't think that's quite.
That was what
There's another song later that we know is about cancer, so it's like.
I thought of that at first too. So.
Yeah, and I could be wrong. It's got some vibes of. I said it earlier, and I don't know if I want to take it back, but I'm going to say it again. This reminds me of Dark Skies, Fit for a King.
I can see how you come to that conclusion. Yeah.
Just from like a song, not their whole album. Just from like the clean singing with this like shouting at the same time, and like this kind of like echo back and forth with the screaming and the singing. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, and you've got the heavy verses, big choruses of like I think Dark Skies is like
this is definitely big on the big chorus, right? They got that group shout, which is a blast live when people know the words,
right? And it is I would say like so far on this album it's the least heavy of what we've talked about, but it's still heavy, like for sure.
I mean, Mike's still screaming, he still goes hard.
It definitely has that, I feel to me, and it was written, I think, from what I understand, before everything else. Or maybe it was like the first one. It was definitely the first one released, but it just feels a little bit like their older stuff. Not what we saw the first few songs.
Sure, yeah.
But I do still, like, really love some parts. Like, I love, like, right after Mike screams medicate away this agony, and there's that breakdown with like a guitar riff in the background, if you know what I'm talking about. It's like that part is so cool, and I look forward to every time I listen to it. It's like it's not like super heavy breakdown, but I just love that, man. It's like it's that atmospheric type of feel again. It's not quite that like horror sound we talked about on the first couple songs, but like it's still like that atmospheric like breakdown that I enjoy a lot.
Yeah, I do like that breakdown that you're talking about. Like the build up to it is really cool when he says death seems to follow me everywhere I go. I'll self-medicate away this agony. Blech.
Right.
But that breakdown isn't even the best part. It's the part after it.
Yeah,
when he comes back in sick, screaming, and there's like those crashing guitars and bass tones, which I feel like if this was written first, like we need to do that for a whole song.
Right.
You
know?
Like,
yeah. They were kind of dabbling, and I was like, dude, that'd be so sick to do that.
Yeah, so I mean it's like this super thick and like doom feeling where he's like suffer, but that like I don't know 5-second clip, you're just like ooh, brutal. They're onto something right there.
Yeah,
whatever that was.
I do like this end. This song does end in some sort of like reconciliation. I feel like just telling God, like it feels almost worshipful, right? Like
the recoverer thing at the end.
Yeah, like I feel like there's that piece of it, right? Like build me up, I won't get swept away. I think that there's that part of it. And before too, even in like the suffer like breakdown part, like lift me up, give me strength, be my refuge, which is definitely I think a big like theme in a lot of like worship songs, and finally like looking and having God rescue you. So and for this is hard too, like obviously when you have this concept album that they have, it's a little bit different than what Convictions has done before, because Convictions is really outspoken about their faith, and there's a lot of Christianity.
I mean they kind of started the whole aggressive worship,
and so this is Christian and a Christian perspective, and kind of like I think you even read their statement on it, how like God works through this, and but it's not their typical lyrical content, and
I think it's cool. I think it's an interesting, it's kind of a risky take to make an album like this, because like some people, like, there's not a lot of replay value. Like, I don't want to feel these feelings.
Yeah.
Like, oh, can't listen to that song, skip, not today, you know.
Right. You've got to really, really do well. Like, The Price of Grace, I think because it has millions of plays or 1 million plays or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, because it's so good.
Yep.
Right? If you're going to do this, you have to do it really well. And I do think they did it, like, extremely well.
Yeah, it's really good. So, yeah, I think that wraps up our episode, right?
Yeah. And for me, like, I think some, like, overall thoughts, like, for me, this, like, if I were to, like, rate this is going back in time. If I were to say, like, albums of the year of 2021, this is up there for me. Like looking back, this was such a good release, and for me it turned me on to Convictions. Like, now I'm looking for every release, and I can't wait to see, like, their single Stigmata that they released was so good.
Yeah.
Right? Like, unbelievably good, and it feels like it's just like an addition, like, to what this album was, right? Like, continuing with this heaviness, only now it's like, oh, these lyrics are, you know, Christian faith based. Like,
is right.
yeah, like, so good, man, so good. So I can't wait to see them live, and I can't wait to see what they come out with, man, because I'm all on board.
That'd be a good one. And for our bonus episode, for those patrons that are here listening to this, we're doing the last 2 songs on here, which, you know, the next one is an instrumental, so there'll be a lot of deep discussion on that one. But we're going to throw in probably, Stigmata, and we might do, like, one of the, like, the cover song that he did or something like that. We'll see how much time we got for our bonus episode. So find out.
Yeah, and if that interests you and you want these bonus episodes, or just support us, give us a cup of coffee, become a patron, join it, and we're so grateful for all of our patrons that continue to support us every single month.
And follow us on Instagram and Facebook and Thread.
Oh, yeah, dude.
You know,
how I woke up today and my Twitter had turned to X.
Yeah,
Like,
we don't
X
have
now.
an X. We don't have a Twitter. We don't have a.
I got a personal Twitter, so now, I mean, Threads. Maybe Threads will take over.
We'll see. We'll see what happens in the next year. We'll look back and be like, remember when Threads was a thing? But who knows, you know. But follow us on there, and you know, join our Discord server.
Absolutely.
Bands join us all the time and hang out and give us sneak peeks at stuff they're working on and give us fun announcements. It's a fun community. We just hang out and talk about music, mostly Christian music. I will give a disclaimer there. People post whatever they want to talk about. Anyway, thanks for listening.
See ya.
Thank you for listening.